All right, I think this is working. Hey guys, I'm going to try something a little bit different today. I wanted to have a little conversation about just this whole adjustment to being online students and online educators too. Um, I'm also an online student. Um, I don't know if we've had a conversation about that before, but I'm studying online and the school that I'm studying through is in British Columbia. So I'm used to having to think about different time zones and communicating only online with my professors. And I've been taking online courses here and there since about 2009, I think. So I have more than a decade of experience with online classes, and I thought maybe I'd share that knowledge with you and that perspective. And maybe it'll help you as someone who's new to the experience of being an online student, so you can understand some of the frustrating things going on and reasoning behind why some of your professors might have certain expectations. So I am filming a little Zoom meeting with just myself, and I'm going to share my screen with you. I made a really cheesy little PowerPoint and just to help me keep track of my points instead of trying to edit text into a video and uploading that instead. So let's do screen share with my desktop. And ooh, I have a lot of things going on here. Let's start here. Okay. So how to survive as an online student. And this is advice from a student and an educator. And I'm going to see about making this, I don't know if I can make this a little bit bigger. Maybe not. Yes. Okay. So you can kind of still see me and like my facial expressions as we're going through this stuff. All right. So some advice. I just have some tips, and I'm not trying to sound disciplinary or anything. Again, this is stuff that I understand as someone with a lot of experience studying online. You have to hold yourself accountable for the deadlines. And when we have face-to-face classes as students, we can get really reliant on the teacher or professor, instructor to remind us, hey, don't forget you have that assignment due next Friday, right? And having those reminders once a week, twice a week, even once a month, it's still helpful. It's better than nothing. And when we don't see each other face to face, it's really, really important that we're remembering the deadlines, that we have a central calendar somewhere so that we can keep track of it, just like we have to keep track of our doctor appointments and personal things. You really have to keep track of the deadlines, because we don't, as educators, we don't have enough time to respond to all of those emails of when is this due, when is this due, when is this due, when we spent a week preparing material and posting it on Moodle of the new calendar of all of the new deadlines. So we spent time creating that to share with you. And instead of having time to grade papers and things like that, we're using our workday to respond to emails to students who aren't reading the things that we've made for them, right? So it gets kind of frustrating. And we don't know how long we'll end up doing this stuff online, right? Like we're already seeing that next semester we will be studying online. So this advice should help you get through the last week and a half of the winter semester and prepare for the next one coming up. So yes, so independence, time management is the other thing. If you think that you have a certain number of hours to set aside for working on one course, something like that, and then you don't end up having that time that you thought you would, where can you make it up? And again, we as educators now, we're trying to be as flexible as possible because we know how crazy things are at home right now and that we're not set up with the resources. But we still have to stick to our deadlines, right? Because the college is supposed to keep going into the next semester, right? So time management, we can only extend so much, right? And when you hold yourself accountable for deadlines, you as a student, you're encouraging flexibility from your professors in the future. So for example, I, as an online student, I would hand things in and then say maybe by the end of the semester, something's going on in my family, like a family member's sick, or I had to pick up extra shifts at work or something like that. I might ask for an extension and I will always get the extension. And why? It's because I respected the deadlines throughout the semester. So it's not an outrageous ask. Whereas students who repeatedly ask for meetings with their teacher or professor and don't show up for those meetings that they requested, or students who have never once handed an assignment in on time are asking for an extension again, you're less likely, right? I mean, it just makes sense. So if you hold yourself accountable for deadlines, then there's the exception, right? Of, hey, the student has tried really hard to get their work done. I trust that they need this for valid reasons. Because the other thing about asking for extensions is it adjusts and it impacts the workload and time management of your professor. Because we have deadlines we have to stick to, right? So if I think I'm going to have 20 hours between Monday and Tuesday to dedicate just for grading papers, so that I can use the other hours on different days for other things, then, you know, when students are asking for extensions, now the time that we would have normally had for marking is being used for something else, and it's throwing off the schedule for the upcoming week, that sort of thing, right? So yes, again, we want to be flexible, we want to help, but if you can hold yourself accountable for the deadlines on a regular basis, then the flexibility will still be there in, you know, future semesters. We just don't want, you know, our educators to burn out with regretting being too flexible this semester and how much extra work it has caused, right? That sort of thing. So anyway, that was a ramble, my apologies. Next slide. Use regular class hours to normalize our new life online. This is big. So if you normally had 3 hours a week in class with one particular course, you should still aim to spend about 3 hours a week on that course, right? Whether or not the lecture material was 3 hours long or whatever the case may be, if there's assigned practice work that normally would have been done in class together as a group, right, you should still be doing it. And you can easily set aside 3 hours a week for a course. The other thing about online classes, I'm not sure if you're familiar with these terms, but there's synchronous and asynchronous learning. So asynchronous learning means we don't have to be online at the same time to learn, right? I can upload a video and you can watch it whenever you have time. So if we have asynchronous courses, we've been given very flexible scheduling, right? We can hand in our assignments by a particular deadline, but we don't have to be online to attend a live lecture at a specific time, right? The flexibility is there because we're trying to make it feasible for students who have a lot of responsibilities at home and are sharing a computer with multiple people, this sort of thing. We need to make sure that we're using the correct amount of hours in a week to still get the work done, right? So flexibility shouldn't mean procrastinating too much, right? It's not the same thing. So yes, we all need some sort of a routine or a schedule, right? And students who've said before that they don't want to take online courses have said that because they like the schedule, the structure of being in a room, sitting with other people, talking to them, that sort of thing. So using your regular class hours to create a normalized life online can help, right? So if I normally taught you from 10:30 to 12:30 on Tuesdays, then, you know, maybe set aside that time to work on that stuff. Right? So it helps with your time management. It helps to create a routine or schedule, and it helps you to know what you need. If you need to sleep in the morning because you're up late at night, because that's the only time you can focus on work because your kids are asleep, if that's your situation, right? Still create some sort of regular schedule. It doesn't have to be normal. I'm getting emails from students saying, hey, can I have the appointment at noon? I'm worried that I won't wake up in time because I'm kind of on a weird schedule now. I'm like, hey, no problem. We don't really have a normal schedule anymore, right? We're trying to piece something together. So, next one. Carefully follow the instructions or guidelines for assignments, for tests, for whatever the thing may be that you're working on for schoolwork. There are a lot of reasons behind specific details of the instructions. As a student, I would get frustrated with the requirements for APA formatting, or why does it have to be in this particular file format when it's being submitted? It's taking me extra time as a student to format it based on my professor's requests and this sort of thing, right? And it is annoying, I get it. Student too, right? But as an educator, when we create assignment instructions, we always end up regretting certain details of the instructions, right? So, oh, I should have mentioned that they needed this many sources, excluding this type or this sort of thing, because there's always sort of a loophole with the set of instructions from what your educator intended as the outcome. Students can end up somehow finding loopholes through the instructions, handing something in. It's not at all what the instructor asked for or wanted, but based on the loopholes, it meets the requirements, right? So we, as educators, end up adjusting our course material so that we don't have to worry about the same mistake happening next semester when we have a similar assignment, okay? So we've changed assignment instructions, and we've put significant amounts of thought into them for many reasons. If you aren't following assignment instructions or guidelines, then a couple of things will end up happening. From a student perspective, we might end up getting like a 0, right? If my professor wants a 5-page comparison essay on two different theories, right? And instead of giving them a 5-page comparison essay, I give them a 1-page summary of a newspaper article. I can't expect to be graded on just a random piece of writing that I hand in, because if we were learning about comparison essays, we were supposed to write a comparison essay to prove that we learned something and that we've developed a skill set of some sort. So the reasons behind the specifications in your assignment instructions, there are many reasons. You can ask your professor if you don't understand the reasons why. I'm sure they will be happy to share with you what the reasons are. Some of these reasons are listed here on the screen for time management purposes. So when we request students to submit things on Moodle, it's because Moodle is a platform where we can have rubrics populate on the screen, click, 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 type in a few comments, and it's done. Next student. It helps with time management. It also helps with organization of the files, because on Moodle, assignments by students are attached to their names. It's already in a filing system organized by course. When students decide to not submit their assignments on Moodle and instead send them through email, this creates a cascade of problems because we don't have a platform to grade it on. We would have to create a new document on our computer, figure out a new storage system on our own desktop, and then have more email correspondence with the student for grading. But none of this information is compatible to be stored in Moodle, where all of the rest of the information is and should be. You see what I mean? So now our organization system is all in pieces because of exceptions. So while in a student's mind, it might be, hey, I did the work, I gave them the work, they can't ask me for anything more. I get it. From the student's perspective, I get it. But now you're causing unnecessary work that's taking away time from your professor to give you feedback on that assignment. Now instead they're trying to figure out a new computer file organization system, or spending time emailing you saying, please follow instructions and submit this on Moodle so I can grade it. Yeah. So for time management, for organization of files, for compatibility of computer applications, again, we are new to, a lot of us are new to being online educators. And so whatever computer system we're stuck with at home, whether it's a 10-year-old MacBook like what I've got here, or if it's a brand new computer with all kinds of applications on it, we are asking for files that are compatible with what we can work with at home. So please just be mindful of that and make sure that you're following the instructions so it's the right file type so that we can actually open it and give you feedback. Yes, so as I mentioned earlier about the overcomplicating the process, when I am, say, grading presentations, and this happened yesterday, I had presentations this semester and I had created a bunch of lecture material on good presentation skills and some things that you should do as students giving a presentation. Some of the things that I said included not putting full paragraphs on the screen and reading them, because anyone watching a presentation is capable of reading. So we don't need you to read the full paragraph aloud because we're already reading it. So you should be saying something different, right? Something like that. So in my lecture material, I talked about this, and then I watched my students' presentations where some of them copied and pasted full paragraphs from websites, didn't cite their sources, and then read the full paragraphs on the screen. In their mind, they put a presentation together and they're going to get a mark on it. But based on all of the things that I've been saying in class all semester, that's plagiarism. You can't copy and paste phrases that other people wrote. Read them out loud during a presentation and not even cite your sources. I can't grade you on your writing ability or your speaking ability, your public speaking ability, because you did neither. You didn't write anything and you didn't speak. You just read aloud something that someone else wrote, right? So if you're not following assignment instructions or guidelines, it's overcomplicating the process, because now I'm stuck thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to give them a 0? Am I going to create an alternate assignment? That's going to take me a few hours to put something together. How many other students do I have to give this alternate assignment to? Where do I draw the line? So if you're not following instructions or guidelines, if you're leaving things to the last minute and then you can't figure out the assignment instructions by the deadline, it's really overcomplicating the process. And then the other thing too, the rubrics and grading criteria. I've had many situations as a student where educators are not giving me the rubric. I want to know exactly how you're grading me. I need to know, if I don't address this particular thing, how much is that going to impact my mark, right? If you're given a rubric and grading criteria and instructions telling you exactly how you're going to be graded, and then you don't read them, you're hurting yourself. So please open all those documents. It may seem clunky and uncomfortable to have that many windows open on your screen, but it's for your benefit. So please use them. And that brings me to the next one, respecting business hours. Okay, so as I said before, it's helpful if you can have some sort of a schedule, however you structure that, right? And even though you might be living your study life in the middle of the night, we are not. as educators, okay? We're trying to still respect regular business hours. And if you have a lot of time on the weekend to work on your schoolwork, that's fine, that's normal. I, as a student teaching, usually during the week, I'm using those weekends to work on my schoolwork, and that's fine. But you have to understand that if you as a student are emailing your professors on the weekends or at night, even on a weeknight, right? We're not working 24/7. So if you've sent an email Friday evening, sent another email Saturday clarifying a point in the email that you sent on Friday that I haven't even responded to yet because it's the weekend, and then Monday morning comes and I am, I have office hours first thing Monday morning, then I'm gonna grade some papers, but keep going on with my day. Monday morning comes, I've got 113 emails to respond to before I can even grade those papers. So emailing on weekends instead of attending office hours is hurting you as a student because we can't get through all of those emails and host office hours and record lecture material and grade your papers. We just can't, right? And we're being flexible with deadlines for assignments. Understand that that's at a cost to our schedule, right? Because we still have to somehow get it all done too. So the other thing, and I'll just shuffle this up here, okay? So it creates bottlenecked Monday mornings. That's where I was going with my first point there. For me here, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I haven't even graded anything yet today because I have been doing office hours and responding to emails and putting this together to kind of hopefully reduce the volume of emails that I'm getting that are indicating that people are still not reading the things that I've put online or watching the videos. So, next point on this slide, emergency communications during a global pandemic. Okay, so we're all going through a stressful time and we have different situations going on, right? New adaptations that we're trying to adjust to. Now we have people living with us who might not normally be staying with us, right? But because of different situations, people are living in places where they wouldn't normally be. We're impacted financially by this. And some of us have loved ones that are in danger right now. They're not in safe places, or they're physically ill, they're sick, okay? So in order for us to manage our communications with those loved ones who are experiencing something dangerous, upsetting, traumatic, whatever the case may be right now, we need to be able to have our phones for emergencies only when it's the middle of the night, okay? So, for example, when you're married to someone who works as a healthcare worker, you want to be able to have your phone with you at night so that if something goes wrong, they can contact you immediately or someone can tell you immediately, right? But if students are emailing me at 2:30, 4:30 in the morning, I can't use my phone. I can't leave my phone on, right? Like I can silence my emails, sure, but sometimes I have legitimate emergency emails from students. I have students letting me know that they've been hospitalized. I have students letting me know what different personal things. So if you're emailing your professors at 2:30 in the morning and it's not an emergency, please know that you could be waking them up and disturbing what's already a challenging sleep schedule. So please just try to respect business hours for that. And also know that the deadlines and schedules that have been put in place, there's exceptions, right? And we can make exceptions to those cases, but just note that exceptions for us equals more paperwork, which equals more communications, which requires more signatures from different people that we work with, and it requires more time. Which, again, I have no issues with helping students. Like, I have students that are in the hospital right now. I am going to be giving them extensions, no problem, okay? But the students who decided to wait until the last week of class to try and get all of the work done and realize that they couldn't manage it and that they're not used to being an online student that's asking for extensions. These are common problems that all students have when they're adjusting to becoming an online student. And so usually in online courses, there's some sort of orientation process to help us understand what it's going to be like to be studying online and how it will impact your life, your routine, right? So we didn't have that orientation for students, but as someone who has a lot of experience as an online student and as an educator who gives extensions, and as someone who has needed extensions as a student too, it does involve more paperwork, right? Different people have to get permission from different people, signatures, agreeing, right? And we don't have the luxury of going down the hall and getting signatures from a coworker anymore. We don't, okay? So it ends up just being thrown into the email pile, and hopefully it gets addressed at some point. So while we want to help students in extenuating circumstances, everyone asking for exceptions becomes really unmanageable. So please be reasonable, okay? All right. Moving on. Be aware of your bad habits and how they might impact you. Sleeping in, if you know that you're bad for sleeping in, then make sure that you're setting aside other time to get your work done, right? Procrastination, again, if you're procrastinating, eventually the time runs out and we can't be flexible beyond the end of the semester, right? Like, unless we've made arrangements ahead of time because we know that the work can't be done, it gets to the point where if I have spent more time creating the material, communicating with students, and trying to help a student succeed than they have working on the coursework, reading the material that I created for them, then it's not likely to result in exceptions being made, right? And I know that as a student too. Like, I'm very careful of when I ask for extensions. So if you procrastinate, I procrastinate. We all do, and it's dangerous, right? I might say I'm gonna take a little break and eat dinner first, and then I'll go and respond to emails after, right? Eating habits. If you know that you need to take a break, right? If you know you're not eating a healthy diet and you need to spend a little bit more time taking care of yourself, do that, because you're not going to be studying effectively if you're hungry and not thinking about your schoolwork, okay? Lastly, I just want to say, please know that everyone is also going through a rough time. All of us have new responsibilities as families, right? Maybe we have different people living with us. Maybe the kids are at home and we're trying to tutor them and help them go through their online schooling while simultaneously studying our own stuff, right? It's a lot of work, okay? And you're not alone in that. A lot of your professors also have kids, and on top of their role as an educator, they're also parents, okay? We all have financial concerns, and even though your professors are still employed, we don't know if all of us will be and for how long, right? So the concerns are on the student end and the faculty end, right? All of us have a new routine or are lacking a routine, and we're all lacking in technology to some degree, right? I don't have the system at home that I feel confident with as an educator. As a student, I can get away with a 10-year-old MacBook, but as an educator, it's a bit trickier. Yeah. Anyway, we're all going through a rough time, and while we have the internet to help us, you know, if we were going through this pandemic in like the 80s or the early 90s, school would just be done, and indefinitely, right? We can't study until further notice. We have an option now with this to keep going and continue our education, but it isn't easy, and it's going to take some adjustments on both our parts as students and as educators. So please keep this in mind, whether it's thinking about this semester or any future semesters that you are studying online. Yeah, I hope you got something valuable out of this. And I just wanted to share this with you and communicate from both perspectives, because as educators, we're struggling. We're struggling to meet deadlines and get through things. And we want desperately to help our students get through the work, but when we're bottlenecked with emails and we can't catch up, and the emails aren't even necessary because all of the information's online, it's tricky. And we want to be able to have the option of teaching you again next semester and having things run smoothly. But if this experiment of this semester has too many hiccups, then we'll have fewer opportunities in the future, I think, right? So on a more optimistic note, if we can just get through this, then we'll still be able to meet our goals of graduating when we hope to, and moving on with our careers, right? So yeah. So that's all I'm gonna say about that for now, and I will talk to you later. You can share this with your friends if you like, if you found anything helpful. I didn't talk anything too specific in our classes. So anyway, share it around. See you later.